Welcome to Cody in the Cinema, and today I'm going to be discussing a few Criterion DVDs that I've had for a while that I still absolutely love and will watch from time to time. And I wanted to start with one that was real beat up. This one is Vampyr, Carl Theodor Dreyer here. You can see that it has damage from a move, some kind of substance that's splashed on it. But the booklet is still in pretty good shape, and I've looked through that years ago. You know, you can kind of see how it's tough for me to even move the media because of the damage. But this is from the same director as The Passion of Joan of Arc and Day of Wrath. There is a Blu-ray available of it now, but I love my old copy of it, wear and tear and all. And it's a really cool silent film that kind of plays on the vampire myth with one of my favorite covers. And I was so sad when it got that damage. But it's like whenever you've had a Criterion DVD for over a decade, you know, you can't get rid of it. You know, this was like the first silent Criterion I ever got, and it was such a big deal to me, but I love it, damage and all. And it's an essential silent watch. Now, whenever I was, years ago, around the time that, let's say, Blockbuster was coming undone and so forth, I would sometimes go to FYEs and get these DVDs that were just on sale or kind of damaged already. And so at the time, you know, you had to make the choice, am I going to eat a reasonable meal tonight or am I going to get a cool disc? So I got a cool disc, and this is a copy of Solaris, and if you can see it here, I mean, I bought it with like sticker damage all along the side. There's a much nicer Blu-ray copy of this now, but I still love it so much because this was my first Andrei Tarkovsky movie. And I mean, the booklet is worn out. It's really old. But this was, if I'm remembering correctly, Ebert said this was Tarkovsky's reaction to the great science fiction movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. And if you love 2001: A Space Odyssey, you really should see this because it's a whole other take on that slow-moving science fiction. I don't mean slow negatively. I just mean that it's not a fast-moving science fiction movie. But at the first time I watched it, I was like, gosh, this is just like, is anything going to happen? Because I was so young to films back then. And over time, I've really grown to appreciate this movie. And I've seen it, sometimes I'll pop it in every occasion until I guess it won't work anymore. I think the disc is still in reasonable condition. That didn't sound good, but Solaris, Andrei Tarkovsky. Maybe the most exciting find I ever had. So I remember when I was, again, do I eat a reasonable meal or do I get a disc time period, I would look and try to find a copy of this movie, and I could not find one for reasonably inexpensive at all, but I had to see it because I had looked and like all my favorite filmmakers loved it, and I was into the genre, and I found a copy one day at FYE for your entertainment, and it was beat up. But I got it, and I've watched it many times since. Carol Reed's The Third Man. And this is about a novelist who goes to post-war Vienna to investigate the death of this old friend, Harry Lime. It has one of the coolest introductions in cinema with music that isn't the harmonica from Once Upon a Time in the West. But I was so excited to get this that I still, to this day, like I said, it's beat up. I mean, you can see it's just in terrible shape. But I've always thought this was one of their coolest old black and blue, white pieces of media. The booklet's actually not in bad shape. Whenever I got this thing, it did have a lot of wear and tear on it, and even since then, I've put more on it. But The Third Man, that the whole Orson Welles entrance remains a favorite to this day. And there's such a sentimental memory that I have with some of these that I can't ever let them go. So I doubt I'll ever upgrade the ones in this stack. And another one I wanted to talk about, I actually got this one before I knew it was getting a Blu-ray release because I'd been waiting around forever for a Blu-ray release, and I think it got one like a year after I bought the DVD. But I went ahead and bought the DVD well past a time when people would normally buy DVDs, but Floating Weeds and A Story of Floating Weeds. I remember for years looking at this cover. I would go by Barnes & Noble and I'd be like, gosh, do I want to buy this thing? And And I did break down and buy it a few years back. And this is my favorite Ozu film. But this one's in much better shape because it's not been through any weird move, no damage to it. I bought it new, that kind of thing. And of course, the Blu-ray just came out, and I highly recommend you get this pack if you haven't, because this has a commentary from Roger Ebert about the great Ozu film, and the silent's great too. So, A Story of Floating Weeds and Floating Weeds, one of my favorite DVDs, and actually one of my favorite Criterions in general. So sooner or later, I might upgrade this one because it doesn't have that sentimental value, maybe that some of my very first DVDs did from 10, 11, 12 years ago, but a neat one nonetheless. And finally, I want to show you one of my actual favorite pieces of physical media. So I got this for Christmas one year. Like I said, the first year or so, I really got into movies that weren't just whatever was playing at the theater or whatever my friends were playing. And I've always loved this cover art, and over time this has become one of my favorite in the genre. Stagecoach, which I frequently refer to on this channel. And I have taken the very best care of this one. I've tried really hard not to let anything happen to it. There's a little bit of damage on the back here. And the booklet's still in good shape. Of course, the booklet has a nice picture there of Monument Valley. I think there's a Blu-ray of this now, but I could never upgrade it because I've had this for too long. Like I said, I think this actually might have been my first Criterion that I ever got, or I know it was the first one that I got for Christmas. And this is the movie that propelled John Wayne and John Ford in Westerns and made that genre what it is today. If you go back and watch this now, you'll see one of the best chase scenes you've ever seen in a movie when the stagecoach is chased in this. And you'll see a great performance from John Wayne before he really became like the stereotype John Wayne that might be in your head if you're thinking of John Wayne. But I've watched this many times since. I know it actually, what's funny about it, it has at least, this silent feature I've never watched in it. So I've never even watched all the extras because I love the main film so much. But John Carradine, Andy Devine is in it. It's Thomas Mitchell's in it. It's a great movie, and it holds up to this day really well. In 1939, really big movie year. But I wanted to point these out to you and leave you with this. You know, when you collect physical media over a period of time, it can be shocking how a movie that you've held on to that maybe isn't the best quality anymore will stick with you in your memory and evoke some of those earlier thoughts of cinema that you had at the time, or maybe something that was going on in your life. I mean, I still have my VHS Wizard of Oz in my closet back there that I used to play over and over again whenever I was a tiny child. Apparently I did that. So I think it's cool to do that every now and then. Look at some of your old physical media, dig it out, see what kind of memories it brings back for you. But let me know in the comments below, what are some old movies you have that, like, you've had this copy since you were a kid, or maybe there's like an old book about a movie sitting around, or an old movie prop kind of toy thing. Let me know. I'd like for this to be a discussion with you all, because I know some of you are really big into collecting this stuff and you really value movies as much as I do, if not a lot more. Anyway, we'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema. Don't forget to like, subscribe. See ya.